hopefully wake up my database. What this particular application is about is providing economic planners in local government in Australia with the facility to be able to identify organisations by industry code within their local government area, so that they are then able to look at economic planning activities. So they might have someone comes to them and says, I'm interested in opening a chemist within your location. They can use the filter capability, and this is straight bird out of the box, this pop-up. We can filter various areas. They can use that filter capability to narrow down, and we've then got a tab structure across the top here where we can go and look at different interactions. So here we've broken the number of industry groups by the type of industry and the postcodes. We've broken that down by suburb as well. That's a little bit hard to read. Here we've done some detailed analysis. We're looking at financial and insurance services. I've done a pie chart here where it's broken down to the next level with the total range of companies. And the last page on here was to get a listing of the particular organisations and their addresses for each of the health sectors. But importantly, we've also embedded a map in here where the data from the BERT report is driving the map generation. So here you can see we're colour-coded by postcode. We've actually built in open street layers navigation here so that I can drag the map. We've got our panning capability so we can zoom across and so forth. And we can both zoom in and zoom out with these typical ladders. We've got some tools up here we can use. So if I turn on the info tool, we hover over these points, we get some information about them. I'll just zoom out a bit further. The beauty of how we're working with this is if we go back out to our particular items here and say we're interested only in retail trade and we're interested only in a particular location in Baulkham Hills, let's run the BERT report and filter down to that level, which it's doing now. It's running against a local SQL Server database, but it could be any other database or source, as James had mentioned earlier. And I think it had gone to sleep a little bit there. The BERT report's now rerun, and it's actually zoomed us right in so we can see the individual points, because we're in a very tight area here. Now we could switch that across to use with Google. We're using a local map at the moment. So if I go to global options and just change the background map we're using, this particular map is actually a New Zealand map, so it has no detail for Australia at all. If I now go invoke our Google Maps plugin and press street, we'll go and get the Google interface for that. And you can see as we moved across, we've automatically picked up the Google navigation rows and we've picked up the Google street, satellite, terrain buttons here. So we've now got that same interface right over the top of Google. And if I go and click on some of these guys, we can get a bit of information about them. Sorry, hover over them. If we use the satellite button, we can move so we're got a satellite view rather than a street view. And one important thing is we're now hooked up to Google geocoding, and we have the facility to use that. So if I go to our center at address function and say I'll type in a address in the middle of Sydney, 300 George Street in Sydney. I mean, we do have an option where you can put in a free text field, but generally it's better if you break them in if you want to get a precise match rather than back a list of matches. Whoops. So I've still got the information plug in there. So we'll go and geocode that address now, and we'll probably find that this particular interface will change, and 300 George Street's actually there. I'll just go back to the street map, whereas the information that we were looking at further was a little bit further out in Western Sydney. So like if I go and drag the map across here this way, hopefully we'll be able to see the points out here in Baulkham Hills, which we were looking at before. No, we're not. Oh, there's one right on the edge there. So hopefully that gives you a bit of idea of how we can integrate Google and our interface together. And that's pretty much using straight out of the box BERT facility, where we've integrated open source GIS and GIS from a web mapping service.